There was a time in my life when silence became my closest friend. Not because I loved being alone, but because people slowly disappeared whenever I needed them the most. My name is Zayan, and this is the story of how the world ignored me when I had nothing and suddenly remembered me when I finally had everything. I was born in a small town where dreams were often laughed at before they even had the chance to grow. My father worked at a tiny repair shop near the old bus station, and my mother stitched clothes late into the night just to keep food on the table. We were not poor enough to beg, but not stable enough to breathe peacefully. Every month felt like a battle. Electricity bills, house rent, school fees, medicines, life never stopped demanding money from us. As a child, I noticed something strange very early in life. People respected rich families differently. They smiled more around them. They listened carefully to them. They invited them to wedding celebrations and important gatherings. But families like ours, we were only remembered when someone needed help carrying chairs after an event. Still, my parents never allowed bitterness to enter our home. Respect yourself first, my father always said. Even if the world ignores you. I tried to believe him. But growing up was not easy. In school, I was one of the brightest students. Yet nobody cared much because my clothes were old and my shoes were faded. Some boys joked about my appearance. Others avoided sitting beside me. I learned to stay quiet. Quiet people observe everything, and I observed how quickly people change according to someone's financial condition. After finishing college, life became harder. My father became sick, and most of the responsibilities of the house fell on my shoulders. I searched for jobs everywhere. Morning after morning, I walked through crowded streets, carrying a folder filled with resumes. Every office gave the same answer. We'll call you, but nobody ever called. Days turned into months. Months turned into frustration. Sometimes I returned home with only enough money to buy bread. Sometimes even that felt difficult. Relatives who once smiled at us started avoiding our calls. Friends slowly disappeared. Invitations stopped coming. People treated struggle like a contagious disease. One evening I visited a cousin's wedding. I still remember standing near the corner of the hall wearing my only formal suit. A suit that was old but carefully ironed by my mother. People barely noticed me. Meanwhile, wealthy guests were surrounded by laughter and attention. At dinner, I overheard someone whisper, "He still hasn't done anything in life." The words cut deeply, not because they were loud, but because they were true. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror and realized something painful. The world only respects results. Nobody asks how hard you tried when you fail. A few months later, my father passed away. Everything changed after that. Our house became quieter than ever. My mother cried silently at night, thinking I could not hear her. Younger sister, stopped asking for things because she understood our situation. And I felt like I was drowning. There were moments when I wanted to give up completely, but responsibilities do not allow weak people to rest. So I continued fighting. I started working small jobs. I delivered food. I worked at a warehouse. I carried heavy boxes for extra money. Sometimes people insulted me for no reason. Sometimes customers treated me like I was invisible. Still, I kept going. Because hunger destroys pride very quickly. One rainy evening changed my life forever. I was delivering packages when my motorcycle broke down near a large office building while trying to fix it. I noticed a security guard struggling to carry several damaged computers outside. I helped him. Inside those broken computers, I noticed small technical problems that could easily be repaired. I had always loved technology, even though I never had enough money to study it properly. The guard introduced me to the company manager. At first, the manager ignored me, but when I repaired one computer in front of him, within minutes his attitude changed immediately. He offered me temporary work fixing old systems. It was not a dream job, but it was a beginning. For the first time in years, I felt hope. I worked harder than anyone else. While others went home after office hours, I stayed late learning everything I could. I watched tutorials at night using cheap internet packages. I practiced repairing devices until my hands hurt. Slowly, people started noticing my skills. After 1 year, I received a permanent position. After 2 years, I was promoted. After 3 years, I started freelancing online. Money slowly entered our life again. Not luxury, just stability. But stability itself feels like wealth after years of suffering. I paid my sister's university fees. I bought medicines for my mother without checking prices. I repaired our old house. And for the first time in many years, my mother smiled without hiding pain behind her eyes. Then something strange happened. People started returning. Relatives who ignored us suddenly called every week. Old friends remembered my birthday again. Neighbors began praising me in front of others. The same people who once avoided sitting beside me now invited me to expensive restaurants. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it, but no, their behavior had truly changed. One day I attended another family wedding. This time I arrived wearing a clean black suit and driving a decent car I had purchased after years of saving. The reaction shocked me. People rushed to greet me. They offered me the best seat. Everyone smiled too much. Even those who once mocked me spoke with unusual respect. One uncle loudly told others. Zayan was always hardworking. I knew he would become successful. I almost laughed hearing that sentence, because during my hardest days, that same man never once asked if my family had eaten dinner. As my career improved, my social status improved too. That is the ugly truth of society. Success changes your personality in people's eyes even when your heart remains the same. When you are struggling, people call you unlucky. When you become successful, people call you talented. Nothing changes faster than human behavior around money. A few years later, I launched my own technology company with 2 friends. The beginning was risky. We worked from a tiny rented office with second-hand furniture and outdated laptops. Some months. We barely earned enough profit to survive. But experience had already taught me patience. Slowly the business expanded. Clients increased. Projects grew larger. Our company became recognized in different cities. And suddenly, the same world that once ignored me started treating me like someone important. I received invitations to business events. People asked for advice, many wanted friendships. Some even pretended they had supported me from the beginning. But struggle gives you a memory that success can never erase. I remembered everything. The silence, the disrespect, the loneliness, the humiliation, especially the loneliness. Because nothing hurts more than realizing people value your condition more than your character. One evening I met an old friend named Harris. Years ago, when I was unemployed and financially broken, he slowly distanced himself from me. Messages became shorter. Calls stopped completely. Now he sat across from me in a luxurious cafe smiling warmly. "You've changed a lot," he said. I smiled politely. "No," I replied softly. "My situation changed. People around me changed." For a moment, he looked uncomfortable. Then he lowered his eyes. That conversation stayed in my mind for days, because it perfectly described reality. Success does not only reveal your strength, it reveals everyone else too. Despite everything, I never wanted revenge against anyone. Pain had already taught me enough. Instead, I promised myself one thing. If I ever saw someone struggling, I would never make them feel invisible. Because I knew exactly how that felt. I started helping young students who could not afford technical courses. I offered internships to people with no experience. Because I remembered how desperately I once needed someone to believe in me. Many employees in my company came from difficult backgrounds. Some people questioned my decisions. Why hire inexperienced people, they asked. I always gave the same answer. Because talent is often hidden behind hardship. One winter night, I visited my father's grave after many years. Cold wind moved quietly through the cemetery while distant city lights flickered beneath the dark sky. I stood there silently remembering everything. The poverty, the failures, the nights. Without hope, the people who left, the people who returned. And suddenly I realized something important. My difficult years were not a punishment. They were training. Those years taught me strength, patience, humility, and awareness. If success had arrived early, maybe I would never have understood people properly. Maybe I would have become arrogant too. But hardship teaches lessons comfort never can. A few weeks later, I attended a large business conference where I was invited as a speaker. Hundreds of people sat in front of me waiting to hear my story. As I stood on stage under bright lights, I remembered the young man who once walked through streets, searching desperately for a job. The same man who was ignored at weddings. The same man who counted coins before buying food. The same man nobody considered important. And now everyone listened carefully whenever he spoke. Life truly changes in unbelievable ways. During the speech, I said something that made the entire hall silent. Never judge someone during their difficult phase. I told them a person fighting silent battles today may become stronger than everyone tomorrow. People applauded loudly, but deep inside I was speaking to my past self. Later that night while driving home, I stopped at a traffic signal near the old bus station where my father once worked nearby. The streets looked almost the same. Crowded, noisy, restless. But I was different now. Not because of money, but because struggle had rebuilt me completely. I looked outside the car window and noticed a tired, young delivery rider standing under the rain beside his broken motorcycle. For a second, it felt like I was looking at my old self again. Without thinking twice, I parked my car and walked toward him. "Need help?" I asked. The young man looked surprised. Then slowly he smiled. And in that moment, I understood something beautiful. Real success is not when people finally value you. Real success is when your painful past does not turn your heart cold. Today, many people respect me. Many call me successful. But the truth is simple. The hardest phase of my life built the strongest version of me, and the people who ignored me during my struggle unknowingly gave me the greatest lesson of all. Never measure a person by their current condition, because situations change. Time changes, life changes, and sometimes the person nobody notices today becomes the person nobody can ignore tomorrow.